NASA is planning on going back to the moon. By 2027, they hope to land the first crewed mission of the Artemis Program and to have an established moon presence in the next 10 years. But despite NASA's commitment, we're still at the drawing board for the moon-based design. Should it be inflatable, 3D printed, or prefabricated? Each design has its pros and cons, and in this video I've analyzed hundreds of concepts to propose what I believe should be the first permanent lunar residence. Before diving into the blueprint, I want to discuss the factors that shape the design and layout. What you're seeing on the screen is the model, so I won't keep you waiting, but if you want to help continually design this moon base, as well as help with other projects, please watch this next section and join the Discord channel in the description. First, and being the most obvious, the base must be built from a limited amount of materials and fit inside the rocket. I will say I was pleasantly surprised by the payload capacity of the Artemis rockets. The largest being the SLS Block 2 cargo can carry 100,000 pounds with 35,000 cubic feet of volume. For the sake of this video, we'll fit the entire first phase of this moon base inside this rocket. Next are the environmental factors. The moon doesn't have hurricanes, tornadoes, or dust storms. In fact, it has absolutely zero wind because there's no atmosphere. Instead, we have to contend with lunar dust, which has been left sharp as glass without erosion. There's also the extraordinary day and night cycle. Most of the moon gets 14 days of darkness, followed by 14 days of sunlight. But where we're going, the moon experiences a phenomenon where the sun hovers just below or above the horizon. This creates long periods of partial illumination and shadows, meaning some areas stay in perpetual darkness for billions of years. This sunlight creates a harsh temperature difference, with some lit areas reaching 130 Fahrenheit and deep craters plummeting to -334 Fahrenheit, meaning our moon base will need to withstand these harsh temperatures. We must also consider the external factors that come straight out of space, like micrometeoroids, which can travel upwards to 22,000 miles an hour, and radiation, which gives an annual dose 45 times higher than on Earth. So taking these factors into account, we know we're going to need some thick, strong walls to protect against radiation, temperature fluctuations, micrometeoroids, and lunar dust. But we can't forget about the human factors. Just to keep these people alive, we need a water supply, large food storage, and a life support system for oxygen. Eventually, we'll need ways to produce food, but that can come in stage 2. Then we need to keep these people mentally alive. The moon isn't only physically harsh, but also mentally, and even with trained astronauts, extended periods of time on a low-gravity, cold, radiated rock floating in a sky of darkness can drive you insane. For this reason, we need to consider making the living space comfortable, nothing like the entangled mess of the ISS, and also provide stuff like an alternate sleeping arrangement in case someone gets sick or just snores a lot. Then of course, the base also needs to serve a purpose. It would be foolish to spend billions, if not trillions of dollars on an Airbnb for the moon. For this reason, there needs to be a lab or other facilities to conduct research. Finally, there's the critical need for redundancy and future-proofing. If one part of the base fails, it's essential that other sections remain operational for at least 2 weeks. That'll give us enough time to send a rescue mission to save the astronauts. This redundancy should also be extended to the communication systems, ensuring it virtually never fails. If possible, the base should also be designed to expand in the future and allow for technological upgrades. Okay, so I believe that's everything. If I missed something, feel free to yell at me in the comments or Discord. If it seems reasonable, I'll update the design. So without further ado, behold the Tesseract. Located near the South Pole, the base incorporates a rigid body design and is built from modular octagons standing at 16 feet tall and 24.5 feet wide. Each octagon offers 348 square feet of living space, with phase 1 containing 2 units. The base also has a 15 by 5 foot room prior to entry, which contains an airlock and decontamination chamber. Entering into this cozy 1-bath 4-bed home, we are immediately greeted by the lab and bathroom, which are separated from the main living space. The first room also offers a small couch and TV to double as a living room, so our astronauts feel at home. Taking a look inside the bathroom, we have a small sink, toilet, and shower, which are all hooked up to a water treatment tank to reuse as much as possible. Now moving over to the main living quarters, which acts as the kitchen, dining room, and bedroom, we have 4 twin-sized mattresses resting on 2 bunk beds. Moving over to the kitchen, we have a sink, a countertop to prepare food, and some small shelves for utensils and dishes. Underneath the counter, we have a small fridge and a specialized oven similar to the one on the ISS for cooking warm meals. Finally, we have the dining room, which consists of a 4-person dining table and some cabinets on the far side, one for each crew member. The station also comes with a lot of concealed storage and wiring space. Taking a look from the outside, we have 18 inches of insulation and roofing to protect against the extreme temperatures and radiation. Following that, we have left 24 inches for vertical height to run tubing mainly for the life support system, but also for electrical wires and traditional storage. Moving further down, we have the 7 feet of living space, which we've already covered, then 24 inches of storage for food, tools, or personal belongings directly underneath the flooring. Next, I have left an additional 12 inches for life support systems and plumbing, then 24 inches for the water tank with a total capacity of over 10,000 gallons when combining both units. And finally, to end this moon-based cake, we have 6 inches of insulation in the foundation of the base. It's also noteworthy to add that the walls are 12 inches thick to provide insulation from the elements of radiation, and each octagon has the capability of being locked from the rest of the station in case of leak or other damage. To assemble this base, the rocket will also deliver a small crane which can double as an excavator for when we cover this base in a protective layer of regolith. Now I'm sure you're wondering, and yes, this will all fit inside a single SLS Block 2 cargo with room to spare. Though I will say I didn't calculate the weight of this, I'm inferring with the right materials it could be built under 100,000 pounds. Now to clear up a few questions, the base was built on the South Pole since there's locations where the temperature fluctuations are at least extreme and where there's believed to be water. I chose a rigid body structure over a 3D printed or inflatable option for several reasons, primarily due to plausibility and redundancy. While a 3D printed structure is an exciting concept, it's still ahead of its time and would require a significant amount of construction efforts by the astronauts. When comparing an inflatable and rigid body structure, I focused on the feasibility of packaging a rigid body. Since it fits without needing to be intricately folded, it made sense to opt for a prefabricated structure that could be fully tested before liftoff. The problem with an inflatable structure is that there's too many things that can go wrong. The system would first need to be inflated on the moon and then hold its pressure without leaking for many years. Without bearing in lunar regolith, it would be vulnerable to damage from micrometeoroids and constant radiation and sunlight, which it would inevitably degrade the material over time. But all this is just my take. If you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them in the comment section or Discord, and if there's enough, I'll make a part 2. But for now, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.